The rescue in the dark forest. The night was deep and the alien forest was alive with strange sounds. Mark walked slowly under the glowing trees, his boots sinking into the wet ground. The air smelled sharp, like burned metal mixed with sweet flowers. He carried a small lamp that gave only a weak circle of light. Every shadow looked like it could move. Every whisper of wind made him tense. He was not here for adventure. He was only searching for mineral stones. Yet in the middle of the silence, he heard a sound that froze his steps. It was soft at first. Like a broken cry, he stopped, holding his breath. Then it came again, higher, thinner, the voice of a child. Mark's heart began to beat fast. This was not the sound of any forest animal he knew. He moved the lamp slowly to the side. The bushes, a head shook. He lifted a small steel rod ready for defense, but what he saw made him lower the weapon in shock. Two small figures crouched in the mud. Their skin was pale blue, shining faintly under the lamp. Big round eyes full of fear looked up at him. They were not human children. They were alien girls, no older than 6 or 7. Their tiny hands held each other tightly, trembling in the cold. For a long moment, Mark did not move. He could hear his own breathing louder than the forest. The girls looked half-starved, clothes torn, feet bleeding. They whispered in a language he could not understand, but their eyes begged for help. Mark knelt down slowly, showing his empty hands. His voice was gentle. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." The girls flinched when a branch cracked behind them. From the dark, a pair of red eyes glowed. A low growl rolled out. A beast stepped forward, its body like a mix of wolf and lizard, sharp teeth shining, claws digging into the ground. The girls screamed and clung to Mark. Mark felt fear climb up his spine, but he pushed the lamp higher. He shouted loud, banging the steel rod against a rock. The creature hissed, then leapt forward. Time slowed. Mark swung the rod with all his strength. It hit the beast's head, sparks flying. The monster howled, stumbled back, then ran into the trees. The forest echoed with its retreat. Mark stood shaking, breathing hard. The girls still held his leg, crying softly. He looked down at them. "You're safe now," he whispered, though his voice trembled. The girls blinked at him. One reached out and touched his hand. Something passed between them, trust born from fear and rescue. Mark knew he could not leave them here. The forest was full of predators, and whoever abandoned these children might return. He lifted one girl gently into his arms, the other he guided with his free hand. Step by step they moved back through the forest. His lamp swayed, showing the path, but every shadow still seemed alive, and every sound still made him turn in fear. The girls tried to speak, their words broken and strange. He could not understand, but he answered softly anyway. "We'll be fine. Stay close, just a little more." Their eyes, though alien, shone with the same hope he had seen in human children. Suddenly, in the distance, lights flashed across the sky. Ships, moving fast above the trees, search beams, swept the forest floor. The girls whimpered, hiding their faces against his chest. Mark frowned. Were these ships searching for them or hunting them? He quickened his pace, heart racing with every second. He knew this night was no longer simple. He had stepped into something dangerous, something that reached beyond the forest, but he held the girls tighter and whispered again, "I've got you. I won't let go." When he finally reached the edge of the woods, the stars opened above. His small outpost light blinked far away. Home, safety, warmth. Yet even as he walked toward it, he knew deep inside, this was only the beginning. The cries of 2 little alien girls had changed his path forever. And somewhere beyond the trees, the real danger was still watching. Shelter and strange bonds. Night had almost ended when Mark finally pushed open the old metal door of his outpost. Inside it was small, made of steel plates and wood. The lamps flickered weak yellow light. The place smelled of smoke and iron, but compared to the forest outside, it felt like heaven. The 2 alien girls clung to him, their bodies shaking from cold and fear. He set them down near the fire pit. They curled together like frightened kittens. Mark knelt, placing dry sticks into the flames soon. Warm light spread, chasing away the shadows. He looked at them carefully. Their skin glowed faintly under the fire, blue with silver veins. Their large eyes reflected the light. But it was not only their appearance that caught his heart. It was the silence. the heavy silence of children who had seen too much. Mark gave them water in small cups. The girls hesitated, sniffed, then sipped quickly, their lips trembled, but relief showed in their eyes. Then he offered food, bread and dried meat. They chewed slowly, watching him all the time. One girl whispered to the other in their strange language. Her voice was broken, soft like wind. Mark could not understand, but he knew what it meant. They were asking if they could trust him. He smiled gently. "You're safe here," he said. They did not understand the words, but something in his tone made them relax. One even leaned against his arm. Mark felt a weight in his chest. These were not just lost children, something bigger was tied to them. Outside, a low hum filled the air. Mark froze, his eyes darting to the window. Red lights cut across the sky, alien ships moving slow, scanning. The ground shook faintly with their engines. The girls panicked instantly. They dropped the food, ran to hide behind Mark. Their tiny hands gripped his clothes. Their wide eyes begged him not to let go. "They're looking for you," Mark whispered, his voice barely a breath. The girls nodded quickly, tears in their eyes, fear so deep it broke even language barriers. The hum passed, fading into the distance, but Mark knew they would return. His heart pounded. What kind of children needed hiding from warships? Who were they really? He tried to ask simple questions, pointing to himself, Mark, then pointing to them, waiting. The older girl touched her chest and spoke a name, soft but proud. Then she pointed to her sister, saying another name. Mark repeated them, clumsy but kind. The girls laughed softly for the first time, and in that moment, a bond was born. Hours passed. The girls slept at last on a blanket near the fire. Mark sat awake, watching the door, his hand tight on the steel rod. Outside, the forest whispered, strange cries echoed far away. But his mind was on something else. Those ships, their search, and the way the girls had looked at them with terror. Suddenly, a loud crack split the silence. The door shook as if something had landed outside. Mark jumped up. He looked through the small window slit. A shadow moved, tall, armored, glowing eyes piercing the dark. His blood turned cold. Someone had found them. The girls stirred in their sleep. The younger one cried softly, sensing danger even in dreams. Mark gritted his teeth. He could not let them be taken. He grabbed the steel rod and whispered to himself, "Whatever this is, I'll stand." The shadow outside did not attack. It stood, waiting. A voice deep and strange rolled through the metal walls, not hostile, but powerful. The girls woke gasping. They looked at the door, their eyes wide. They whispered one word together, trembling. "Mother." Mark felt his throat tighten. "Mother." But why did the word sound more like warning than relief? The fire flickered. The air grew heavy. The door creaked slowly, and Mark knew the night of rescue was over, and something much bigger had just arrived. The arrival of the mother. The heavy door groaned as it pushed open. Mark raised his steel rod, sweat dripping from his forehead, his heart hammered like a drum. The two alien girls clung to his legs, whispering that one word again. "Mother." In the doorway stood a figure taller than any human he had ever seen. Her skin was a darker shade of blue, marked with glowing silver lines. Her armor shimmered like liquid metal, shifting with every movement. Her eyes burned with a golden fire that made the air itself feel heavy. She stepped inside slowly, the floor trembling under her weight. Mark wanted to shout, to warn her away, but his throat locked tight. This was no ordinary alien woman. Her presence filled the small shelter like a storm waiting to break. The girls suddenly broke free from Mark and ran to her. They wrapped their arms around her legs, tears streaming. The woman's hard face softened for a brief moment. Her long hand brushed their heads gently. Mark lowered the rod slightly, confusion spreading through him. He had expected anger, maybe violence. Instead, she knelt to embrace the girls. Her voice, though strange, carried warmth as she whispered to them. The children clung tighter. Safe, at last. But when her eyes lifted to Mark, everything changed. The warmth vanished, replaced by cold fire. She stood tall again, towering above him. A strange blade unfolded from her wrist, glowing sharp with energy. She raised it, pointing directly. At him, the air cracked with its power. Mark's breath caught. Was this how it ended? Yet the girls cried out, pulling her arm, shaking their heads violently, their voices pleaded desperate. The woman froze, staring at Mark again. The weapon hummed louder. Then, with a sharp snap, it folded back into her armor. She stepped forward, her shadow falling over him, then, to his shock, she lowered her head. Not in threat, but in respect, a bow. Slow and deliberate. Mark blinked, speechless. Why would a powerful alien warrior bow to him? The girls looked between them, whispering something fast. He caught only one word from their language, repeated again and again. Protector. Protector. The mother straightened, her golden eyes never leaving his face. She spoke, her voice deep, filled with command. Mark could not understand the words, but the meaning pressed into him like a weight. She was thanking him and warning him. Outside, the night roared with thunder. No. Those were not clouds, they were ships, hundreds of them moving across the sky. Their lights burned red like fireflies of war. The woman glanced upward, her jaw tight. She placed a hand on Mark's shoulder, heavy, unshakable. Her grip said more than words could. He was now part of something he did not choose. Suddenly, a loud crash shook the forest nearby. Trees snapped. Like twigs, a squad of armored aliens poured out of the dark, weapons glowing. Their eyes locked on the outpost. Mark stiffened, fear tearing through him. The mother growled low, pulling the girls behind her. With a swift movement, she drew her weapon again. Its light lit the whole shelter in blue fire. Mark stepped beside her without thinking. His steel rod shaking in his hands, the mother looked at him surprised. In her eyes, for a brief second, he saw respect. Then the attackers roared, charging forward. The forest exploded with noise. The night that had started with 2 lost children was now turning into war, and in the center of it, a simple human stood shoulder to shoulder with an alien mother. Both ready to fight, both bound by the children who had brought them together. The fire inside the shelter flickered. The girls held each other, whispering one word over and over. Protector, protector, protector. As the first blast tore through the night sky, the strange reward. The night burned with the clash of light and steel. The attackers had come fast, their weapons tearing the forest apart. But the alien mother fought like a storm. Her blade moved with blinding speed, every strike bursting in blue fire. Mark stood at her side, swinging his steel rod with desperate strength. Again and again he blocked smaller drones that leapt from the shadows. His arms shook, his breath tore from his chest, but he never stepped back. When the last soldier fell, silence pressed heavy over the clearing. Smoke drifted from broken trees, the ground was black with scorch marks. Mark bent over, gasping for air, his clothes torn, hands bleeding. The girls ran to him, holding his arm, their wide eyes shining with fear and pride. The mother stood still, watching him. For the first time, her golden eyes were not hard with suspicion. They carried something else. Recognition. She lowered her weapon, its light fading into silence. Then she walked toward him, her steps slow, her armor cracked in places, glowing lines fading. Yet her presence was still strong, unshakable. She raised her hand, and from her chest plate she pulled a small object, a crystal, glowing with soft white fire. It pulsed like a beating heart. Mark stared at it, confused. He had never seen anything like it. The girls gasped, whispering fast in their strange tongue. Their voices carried awe, almost fear. The mother knelt in front of him, her towering figure lowered, her hand holding the crystal out. Her voice rolled low, each word heavy with meaning. Mark could not understand, but her eyes told the story. This was not a gift, this was a reward, and maybe more. He hesitated, his hand hovering, the crystal hummed, its light reaching for his skin. The moment he touched it, a surge of energy rushed through him. His body stiffened, his vision exploded with colors. For one breath, he saw stars, galaxies, entire fleets, bowing in silence. Then the vision vanished. He staggered back, almost falling. The crystal now rested in his palm, calm and warm. What is this?" he whispered. The mother's golden eyes softened. She placed a hand over her heart, then pointed at him. The girls spoke the same word again. Protector, protector, protector. Mark shook his head. He was just a miner, a wanderer, nothing more, but the weight of the crystal told another story. It was heavy not with mass but with destiny. He felt it pulling at him, whispering things he could not understand, as if it had chosen him, not the other way around. Outside, thunder rolled again, ships moved closer, their red lights glowing like eyes of demons. The mother stood, her armor locking into place. She touched the crystal once more, then spoke words that needed no translation. They will come. For you. For this. For them. Her eyes moved too, the girls then back to him. Choose human, protector, or prey. Mark's stomach twisted. He wanted to deny it. He wanted to throw the crystal away, but when he looked at the two small girls holding each other, their fragile bodies trembling, he knew there was no choice. He had already chosen the moment. He picked them up in the forest. He gripped the crystal tight. Its light wrapped around his hand, warm, steady, like a promise. He raised his head, meeting the mother's eyes. His voice shook, but carried strength. Protector, the word echoed through the clearing, and as if the galaxy itself had heard it, the sky above flared with sudden light. Dozens of alien ships froze mid-air, their weapons powered down, their engines stilled. They bowed in silent formation, not to the mother, not to the children, but to him. Mark felt his knees weaken. The girls gasped, staring wide-eyed at the sight. The mother nodded once, sharp and firm. She had given him the reward, and with it she had given him a throne of fire, a throne he never asked for, but one he could never run from. The night did not end with silence. It ended with the hum of power in his hand, and the knowledge that, from this moment, the galaxy would no longer see him as a simple man. They would see him as something else, protector. And in the distance, deep in the dark sky, 1,000 more ships began to move, drawn by the light of the crystal and the human, who now carried it. The choice that shakes the stars. The crystal pulsed in Mark's hand like a living heart. Its light spread across the clearing, touching every tree, every broken weapon. The forest itself seemed to bow in silence. Above, alien ships hung frozen in the sky, waiting. Their red lights dimmed. Their engines whispered like beasts held on a leash. Mark stood still, chest rising and falling. He did not understand why they waited, but he felt it deep in his bones. They were not waiting for the mother. They were waiting for him, the alien. Woman stepped closer, her golden eyes fixed on him, her voice rolled like thunder. They will obey the one who carries it. She pointed to the crystal, then to him. Her words were sharp, almost cruel. And now, that is you. The girls held his arm tightly, their small hands trembling. They looked at him with fear, with hope, as if his answer would decide if they lived or died. Mark swallowed hard, his throat dry. I didn't ask for this, he whispered. The mother's gaze hardened. No one asks. Destiny does not ask. Before he could speak again, the ships above shifted. One broke formation and descended. A massive warship, black and endless. Its shadow swallowed the forest, its guns turned downward. A voice boomed from the sky, harsh and metallic. Surrender the heirs or burn! The girls gasped, hiding behind him. Mark felt his chest tighten. He wanted to run, to hide. But the crystal in his hand burned hotter. Its light reached into the sky. The enemy ship paused, weapons humming but not firing. Mark realized it. They could not strike him, not while he held this. The mother stepped beside him, her armor cracked but her stance proud. You saved them once, she said. Now you must save them forever. Her eyes pierced into his soul. Protector is not a word, it is a throne. Mark looked down at the girls. Their wide blue eyes glistened with tears, their lives, their future, their people, all bound to him. He clenched the crystal tighter. The heat of it filled his chest, spreading into his veins. He lifted his head slowly, his voice no longer shaking. I won't surrender them. The sky roared, the warship growled louder. But then something impossible happened. The entire fleet above began to shift, not to attack, but to kneel. Ships tilted in formation, their lights dimmed in submission. The forest shone red and blue under their bowing shadows. Mark stood in shock. He was no soldier, no king. Yet in that moment the galaxy bent around him. The girls cried with relief, hugging him tight. The mother lowered her head once more, not out of duty but out of respect. "The Protector has chosen," she said. Her voice trembled, even in its strength. But even as silence fell, danger did not end. From beyond the stars, more signals stirred, other empires, other predators. The light of the crystal had awakened them all. Mark could feel it like whispers in his ears, new eyes turning toward this forest, this planet. Him. His choice had not ended the fight. It had only begun it. He looked at the sky filled with silent fleets, then at the children holding on to him, his jaw tightened. He knew there was no turning back. The man who had entered the forest as a miner was gone. In his place stood something else, a human who had shaken the stars with a single choice. The night ended, not with quiet, but with a promise written in fire and light. A protector had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same again.